Okay, so I'm going to stand away from the slides so you guys could look at the slides, and I'll talk through. So again, this is the results of the Employee Engagement Survey. And the reason why we're doing this we did it with, I presented this to the leadership group, and now I'm presenting it to all staff. And so the goal is for us to work collaboratively and collectively on those bottom categories so that hopefully we can get more employee engagement. So the top 3 results that we could celebrate, I would say things that we are doing well. I know what I need to do my job successfully. 78.9% of the people said that. Now we had 142 people participate in this survey. So that's important to know. That's a good number, so this should be a good sample size. So for those of you who may not have participated, you know, the next go round, hopefully we'll get more participation. We had a 77.5% agree that my coworkers and I have a good working relationship, and 75.4% said that they understand how their work impacts the organization's business goals. So I said those are good things to celebrate because that's a foundation of what we do. So the bottom 3 results that's going to require us to collectively, collaboratively do an action plan for are these. So 57.8% of the people said that senior management and employees do not trust each other, okay? So they disagree that these 2 categories of people trust each other. 52.1% said that communication between senior leaders and employees is good. You guys disagree. And you disagree that most systems and processes here support us in getting the work done effectively. So let me just ask, what do you guys think the last one is referring to? Anybody? Libby?
I'd say one of our big problems is we start resolutions in a meeting, the meeting gets discontinued, something else takes precedent, and no resolution is ever reached. We don't achieve our end goal.
Okay. And what I've also heard was, you know, we get a lot of paperwork added. So those are the 3 areas that we have to be committed to work on for us to have more employee engagement. So I had 3 additional ones that scored high that I think is important for us to further celebrate, and that is that 67.6% percentage of the people agree that their supervisor they have a good relationship with their supervisor, and 60.6% said that they're satisfied with their overall job security, and 58.5% say that their manager is a great role model for them, and that they have access to the learning and development they need to do their jobs well. So I say kudos to the middle managers, because that's what this tells me, is that the employees have a good working relationship with their middle managers. So those are 3 additional areas that we can work on. So this is a research done by Deloitte, and it talks about 5 elements that's needed for employees to be engaged in the workforce. And so what I did with the leadership group, and you can't see that well, but when you go online to look at the PowerPoint online, there's an exercise that I want you guys to do, because part of this process is us listening and then developing a plan to address the concerns that the employees have. So this is not going to be a one and done deal. It's a process if we're truly committed to engaging with the employees. So Deloitte did a research about engagement, and these are 5 elements that they say are needed in order for employees to engage. So the work has to be meaningful to you. You have to have hands-on management, positive work environment, growth opportunity, and trust in your leadership group. So what I'm going to ask all of you to do is email me one item out of those 5 elements that's important to you. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to calculate those and then put it together and compare it to what the leadership group presented to me. So the leadership group selected out of each one of those categories, and the top one in the meaningful work was autonomy. Under hands-on management, it was clear and transparent goals. Under positive work environment, it was a humanistic workplace. And growth opportunity, it was training and support on the job. And trust in leadership was transparency and honesty. So I want to have a comparison to see what the staff would select versus what leadership is going to select, because this is going to help us develop this action plan on how we move forward. Because engagement is about meeting the needs of the employee. It's not about the employer. It's what the employees need to be successful at their jobs. So I'm going to ask you guys to, after this presentation, when you have some time, I'll give you a deadline of when to submit your items to me so that I can put them together, and then I have another PowerPoint to present so we can start working on an action plan. Any questions? Ben?
When we talk about this, what is the definition of humanistic work?
So that's going to be in the next PowerPoint once we work towards the action plan. Because around all of these elements, you're going to have some parameters, because autonomy can mean different things to different people. So we're going to have to clearly define what that means in each category, so that when we move forward with an action plan, we're all on the same page. And one group is in understanding autonomy to be one thing, and another group is understanding it to be another. Any other questions?
Yes, one of the questions when I first saw this was, what does it mean by time for slack?
Yes.
And sometimes slack is thought of in negative terms.
But slack is good, because slack is part of engagement. So we all have 2 15-minute breaks and a 30-minute lunch. How many of you take breaks with a friend? How many of you take 15 minutes just to talk? Yeah, that's important. It brings balance to the workforce. So yeah, Stephanie brought that up the last time, and that's a good, people can see it in a negative way, but if you're a good steward over your time and you do it right, I think engagement and getting to know one another is important. That's all part of, making this work. Any other questions? Okay, so these are the next steps. The assignment that I just gave to you, that I'm going to ask you to identify what's most important to you, and what I challenge the leaders to do individually, because I'm going to take the one that had the most votes. So we're going to do it democratically, right? But individually, your supervisor can still work with you. So say autonomy won out, but something else on that list is important to you. That's an opportunity for your supervisor to work with you on that category that's important to you. So how does autonomy look for you as an employee, and what are your ideas around autonomy when you speak of your work? The goal was to do this again in 6 months, but I don't think 6 months is too short of a time for us to realize any success. So hopefully we can gauge where we are in 6 months and go from there. But the initial goal was to retake this survey, the identical survey, in 6 months to see if there's any changes. But we'll look at that as we move through the process. And so in order to have a framework around the action plan that we hopefully all will work on together, is that we need to come to an understanding of what the overall objective is. And so most of us saw that the issue was with senior leadership. So that's the overall objective. How can we work on our trust with the employees? How can we manage change better? So when there is change, how do we manage it? Do we have a mechanism to follow up so that people can see and have little successes, and you aren't feeling always burdened by the constant changes but not really seeing the significance, answering that why? And so we're going to go through these to develop the action plan, and like I said, we're going to do it in groups. And let me say this, because this is my idea. And again, this is engagement, so I don't want it to be just driven by what senior leadership thinks. But this is what I'm thinking based on the results. There are 3 tiers here. So we have senior leadership, we have middle management, and we have the staff. So the issue is with senior leadership. But my idea is that if, like we did the exercise with the leadership group on the 5 elements. So senior leadership will work on those areas with middle managers, and middle managers can work on what you guys present with the line staff. And then I think when those relationships are solidified, then there can be a better level of trust. Any thoughts? What do you guys think? This is engagement.
The trust is just what I said before, everything just kind of drops. You know, we all have good ideas, and people will bring forth good ideas, but then good ideas are never really listened to, and then it just phases out. We cancel a meeting, and cancel another meeting, and then JCO comes in, and then erases the whole wall, which we understand.
Okay, so what about if you presented an idea, and say we were unable to use that idea, would it make sense for us to come back and say, Libby, you know, thanks for presenting the idea, but we went with this idea because of X, Y, Z?
I don't really care if it's my idea.
No, but it's just the communication.
Yeah, but the biggest thing would be we could all come to a resolution to everybody that it was palatable for everybody, you know? I mean, so I'm satisfied with that, but as a group,
Okay,
you know, I think the group was palatable.
okay.
I don't want to point fingers, but it's been this way since I've been working here and at other places too. Sometimes decisions are made at the administrative level, and it's like we don't have any say in those decisions, and we're the ones doing the job, but nobody ever comes to us to solicit our feedback on whether we feel that is a good way to do that, or, you know, if it will put more time constraints on us, or those kind of things. Well, whereas a management decision, I can see, yeah, okay, that makes sense, but if decisions are made up here and these people don't have any impact in it, then we don't buy into it as well.
Right, right.
So I think it is a communication.
Okay. Brenda?
Part of it too is, you know, when we took this, we took the time to make all those comments.
Yes.
It took a long time, so
Mm-hmm.
we probably could get a lot of that information in the comments that we made.
Yeah, and on the next slide, this one, these were the themes that I found in the comments section. So communication is always a big deal, even though we have different modes in which we communicate today, but we still don't do a really good job at it. So we have to find ways to do that better. Listening, you know, and being transparent, accountability and training. So these are areas, this is going to be tough because it's no easy path, but this is the start. And so we have to be willing to commit. If we're going to say from a leadership standpoint, if it's something, because all of you know that there are going to be times when leaders have to make decisions on the spot, and you don't always have an opportunity to solicit feedback. But those times that we do have the opportunity, like policy changes and workflow changes, I think that's what I'm hearing that people want to have more of a say in or have some input in. And so part of the action plan is how do we improve on communication? And let's identify some of those small things that are small, but they get big because they impact your work. So where can we start small so we can have small successes? And part of that, I think an easy one is policy change and workflow changes. Just communicating those things and involving the right people at the table at the same time and not after the fact, because sometimes that's what happens too. We have a plan, we have something to change, and we don't have all the right people at the table. And then we go forth to implement the plan to find out, oh, I forgot to include this department or that department. Any other questions? Any ideas of how you guys would like to see this work? And if you don't have any now, if you sit at your desk and you think of anything, shoot me an email, because again, I'm soliciting you guys for feedback and input so that this could be a collaborative effort and not another top-down initiative. And that's why I said it's going to take commitment, it's going to be growing pains. We didn't get here overnight, and so we're not going to solve it overnight, but we have to be willing to communicate and to listen and be transparent so that we can hold each other accountable, so that the workplace could be a little more enjoyable to work. Any questions? Any questions about the assignment? So the sooner you guys get that back to me, the sooner I can tally them, and then we can start looking at what do we want to tackle first.
Simple email?
Yep.
Okay.
So I'll get Brenda to do an all staff with the information so everybody gets it at the same time with the same instructions. So don't send me anything now. I'll have Brenda send that out and just respond to that email, send it back to me of what's your top one. And then be willing to share that information with your direct supervisor so that they can start engaging you in ways that's meaningful to you. Okay? Any other questions? Doc?
Just a comment, because I think I think one of the things that I've seen happen oftentimes is if you're present at a meeting, you learn something that then you know that a lot of people, other people don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So when you said don't respond now, I'll have Brenda send an all staff. I think having information come up to us as a whole, as
Yes.
an entire staff, so that everybody gets the same information.
Yes.
I think cuts down on the issues.
Right. And that's why today, all I'm doing is, Mike is recording me, so that when this goes on the intranet, everybody is hearing exactly what I said to you today, so that there's no misunderstanding, so I don't meet with one group and I kind of modify what I say, and then it was different than what you heard. So that's what we're doing today. This is being recorded. So when you look at this PowerPoint online, you're going to hear exactly what I said to you guys and asked of you guys today on that audio. And I do think if we start doing that more, communicating the same thing to everyone at the same time, then there's no misunderstanding. Because things, we all know the game. You tell a secret and start here, and by the time it gets over here, it's different because people improvise based on what they heard. Any other questions?